Welcome. You're listening to a Trauma Survivor Thrivers podcast on Mental Health News Radio Network. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lorilee Binstock, host of a Trauma Survivor Thrivers podcast on Mental Health News Radio Network and anywhere you get your podcasts. Today, my guest is writer, activist, and survivor Patrice Griffin, who recently settled a civil case against former Quad Recording Studios owner Luis Gonzalez and the studio itself following years of abuse she endured as a teenager at the hands of the members of the Black Watch movement, including Jason Brother J. Hunter of the rap group X-Clan. Patrice is also the author of The Unconscious Community, where she details that experience. Patrice's story is one of unimaginable trauma, but it's also one of resilience, courage, and purpose. She has dedicated her life to supporting other survivors, founding the nonprofit Patrice's Kids, advocating for legislative change through New York's Child Victims Act, and using her voice to make sure no child feels unseen or unheard. Gentle content warning before we begin. Today's discussion will include topics of child sexual abuse and trauma, so please take care of yourself while you listen. Patrice, thank you so much for joining me. I don't know if people haven't listened to the podcast throughout, Patrice joined me my first season when I just started out, and I am so grateful to have her back on today.
I'm so excited to be here today. Again, like you said, I was here for the very first season. So that was pretty exciting. And I got to talk to you about a couple of things, really some really important topics, obviously related to my case and things like that. So I'm super happy to come here and share the news with you guys. So thank you so much for having me once again.
Thank you so much. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us about the new news that we're here to talk about?
Okay, so as you already know, I went through horrific child sexual abuse from the age of 8 to about 18. And I was involved with an organization called the Black Watch Movement, also related to a rap group called X-Clan. And they were sexually abusing me from age 14 to 18 until I was able to escape. So many years had passed, and because of statute of limitations, I didn't know that I had an opportunity to seek any form of justice. But back in 2019, I worked with a gentleman named Gary Greenberg, and Gary Greenberg introduced me to something called the Child Victims Act. So we worked on that bill to try to help survivors, who are my age and older, who weren't able to get the justice that they so desperately needed due to statute of limitations. So we got the law passed. It was signed by the governor at the time, Governor Cuomo. And we were able to get that passed. So now we were able to move forward with our Supreme Court cases. I actually had 3. So one was for the recording studio, one was for the owner, Gonzalez, and the other one for Jason Hunter. I was able to win all 3 of my cases. So I'm really happy that I was able to get that done. So Jason Hunter, I got a default judgment because he refused to show up in court, though he was served on numerous occasions. The other 2 cases, they were settled out of court. So, I just want survivors to know that it's possible, it's possible to seek some form of justice. Although I want to say I would have preferred them to serve some prison time, but because of this statute of limitations in New York, that's only up to age 27. The only thing that I could do was sue them civilly, which I'm happy to say that I actually did win those cases.
Amazing. That's incredible. Was it hard for you to actually start the process?
Yes, I mean, it was extremely hard, Lorilee. Let me tell you, emotionally, it just took a toll on me, emotionally, physically. It's 5 long years. That's the journey. That's how long it took for me to find an attorney, to get, all the documents together, medical records, all the things, people who were willing to talk on my behalf. I mean, I just got to tell you, it was not easy at all. A lot of tears, a lot of stress, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, having to relive those traumatic moments over and over with different attorneys, and then having to talk about it again with the case. So it was definitely something that I would never wish on anyone, So it's like being traumatized all over again. But at the end, there is like, again, there is some form of justice there, obviously. But yeah, it was tough. It was really hard.
So how did you feel when you won the case? Did you feel vindicated? Did you feel like did you feel the way someone, I guess, yeah, I guess vindicated is the word I'm looking for.
That's a good question. A lot of people have asked me that actually, and my answer has always been, I'm happy that I won the cases because now it shows other survivors who unfortunately will be behind me, um,
Hmm.
that it's possible to get justice and to never give up. But the other side of it is that honestly, it doesn't take away from what was done to me. You know, I'll always live with that trauma for the rest of my life. I'm still in therapy, still actually processing it because it's not something again that just goes away. So yeah, there's that part of, you know, it's like kind of like bittersweet. Yeah, you won, but there's no amount of money or anything that could take away what has happened to me. But I do want survivors to know that they're not alone. And if they can see me fight and battle through all this trauma and, you know, dealing with, you know, just civilly and just the law in general, because it's really hard, that they can do it too, to never give up, you know, because we can move forward. We can, you know, we can have a life worth living even after this trauma is possible.
Yeah. I would think that there are probably a lot of survivors that are just like, "Oh, this process, you said it was difficult."
Yeah,
And I don't want to take away from like, okay, because everything worth doing is going to be challenging,
absolutely.
right? But can you take us back to the process? When did you decide that you were going to do this? Was there
Okay.
someone who was kind of helping you along?
Yes, so definitely again, Gary Greenberg, he was
Mm.
a huge support. He was the one that introduced the bill. Um, and he told me, he said, look, if we are able to, you know, get this law passed, you know, I need your help. There's gonna be other survivors are gonna be involved as well. You may be able to get some form of justice, but it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be a rough road. I mean, he did make me
Mm.
aware of it. But you know, in my heart, I was just like, you know, I was just so determined. I'm like, I can do this. I didn't realize how tough it would be. You know, I didn't realize the toll that it would take on me. I had to go through many different attorneys to find the perfect attorney. So that means that I spoke to approximately 10 attorneys, okay, throughout a 6-month period, which means that I had to tell them individually every single aspect of what happened to me during my time with the organization and with X-Clan.
Mhm.
So that's me having to repeat the trauma over and over and over, which is no good for your mental health, obviously, right? So I would definitely suggest if you're gonna go through something that I'm going through right now, please go to therapy. It's extremely important. You need that support. So I just want to put that out there first. Um, going, you know, I back and forth, court, just a lot of paperwork, a lot of disappointments, a lot of them saying, we can't find this person, or
Mm.
we need to get extra time. We need 90 more days to get an extension. Then we're waiting for the studio to get back to you because obviously they have a bulk of attorneys, you know, they have like 5, 6 attorneys representing them to your one attorney that you have. So you have to do all this. It's just a lot of unnecessary paperwork and it's a lot of unnecessary time and it's a lot of a lot of delays, especially when we had COVID, you know, so that pushed my
Mm.
case back a year and a half. Okay, and then I had two different judges, one retired, and then another judge, another female Supreme Court judge, she came in and took over my case. And then they wanted me to, after I won the two civil suits, the first suit, which was with the studio, and then the other one with the owner of the studio. When I won those two cases, they still wanted me to wait. I had to wait until those were done to get to Jason Hunter, then have an inquest, which I'm actually about to have an inquest soon, finally with the judge, and she'll determine what the damages should be for the situation that I went through with X-Clan. So it's, you know, it's still a process. So
It's
yeah, it
still a
was
process.
difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
Was this done pro bono? Was there how did or did you have to pay for the legal fees and all of those things to get this moving?
No, so the good thing about that is that it's what you call a injury attorney, okay?
Mm.
And with the injury attorney, you don't pay them upfront. You actually wait until, you know, it's all over And then if you win, then they get something from it. And then, you pay your portion. But if you don't, then obviously, you move on and try to find another attorney. So it's just an injury attorney. It's not like anything like a special attorney for civil, for these types of cases. So yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess I just didn't know that, and maybe that's
Yeah.
just my ignorance there, that there's injury attorneys who handle, like, assault and abuse cases, I guess.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I was very like, okay, because I was like, well, how much is this going to cost me? And he was like, you don't pay anything out of pocket. We take the case if they only take the case if they believe you will win, and that's pretty much how it works. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I love that you were talking about, have a mental professional on your side during something like this. I mean, for experiencing so much abuse that you have had experience in your childhood, I 100% feel that you should have some sort of mental health professional on your side. But what has been, the most powerful tools or moments in your healing journey that helped you get to this point?
So individual therapy, obviously. I went through trauma therapy and something called dialectical behavior therapy, which has been great. And so it's like a group therapy setting obviously, I'm a veteran, so it's at the Veterans Hospital. And we basically deal with life skills. So a lot of times when people like myself, who deal with, child sexual abuse, including borderline personality disorder due to trauma, we have a tendency to beat up on ourselves a lot, not give ourselves any grace, any credit for the hard work that's taken us to where we are right now. Even like with my book and things like that, I still didn't feel accomplished, even with, doing all the things that I do in the community with the children. I still wasn't feeling accomplished. And and through therapy, it's helped me to feel like, you know what, you're doing the best that you can. You're doing a lot of things that a lot of people wish that they could do. A lot of people wish that they could have spoken up for themselves. So try to work on, showing yourself a little bit more grace, a little bit more love. So it's like you have to reparent yourself. So I had to do the things for myself as an adult that I did not receive as a child, like that love, that attention, that validation that I did not receive. I had to create all those things and do that for myself. So I've been learning to do that in therapy, and it's been really helpful. It's not perfect, right? So it's always, a process, but it's definitely helped me and it's truly saved my life.
Oh, amazing. I'm curious to know, the P Diddy case is, I get he's been sentenced, I believe, 4 years. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That just as someone who has been the victim of childhood sexual abuse, I obviously was appalled. I don't know how everyone else in the community that community feel about that sentencing. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it makes me think about how survivors never want to speak up, right? Because they never feel like they'll get the justice they deserve, or they feel like they won't be believed or heard. And I think that so this was another bill. I'll actually bring that up. This was another bill that came into play called the Adult Survivors Bill. I also was an avid supporter of that as well. And that's how the singer Cassie was able to get her civil suit through to that bill, right? So that was helpful financially. But again, financially, it doesn't take away the pain. So I think that with a lot of survivors, they feel like, why am I speaking up? Why am I saying anything? This guy only got 4 years, if I was in their shoes, I would be extremely disappointed, because now this man is going to be back on the street. 4 years of prison is not going to completely change who you are. If you're a predator, you're a predator. I mean, that's my belief. I don't believe that these people change. I think they just switch up their coats, and make it seem like they're this changed person when they're really not. I don't see how a predator or a pedophile can just change their life and say, you know what, I'm not going to abuse children anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. And so for me, it really is heartbreaking for me to see that these survivors, people like Cassie especially, had to go through all that trauma. I mean, he just beat her senselessly, and he's only gotten 4 years, and he had to pay her some money. For me, that's not a form of justice. That's a slap on the wrist and saying, bad kid, don't do that anymore. It's like disciplining your child. You pop them on the hand, you say, hey, don't do that anymore. The oven is hot, don't touch it, right? So you give them the warning. But this is like a whole nother level. This is like a slap on the wrist for someone who could have seriously killed someone,
Yeah.
who has destroyed other women's lives, who destroys men's lives, who has threatened them. So yeah, it's just our laws have not caught up to the type of abuse that we go through on a daily
Hmm.
basis. And I just think that, it's not fair. And yeah, it's pretty horrific. If you ask me, it's pretty horrific that he only got 4 years. I'm just astonished.
Yes,
Really astonished.
I didn't even want to read the article when I saw that was like the headline. I was like, nope, I don't. I'm not okay with this.
Right.
And do you think that judges need to also understand when doling out these kind of type of sentences? Like, do you feel that a lot of judges don't understand the ramifications of abuse and what people go through? It's lifelong. It's
Right.
lifelong recovery, and that is so frustrating to me. And I'm just curious, since you've been in the justice system, do you
Mhm.
feel um, that judges don't necessarily understand, or they should be trained to understand trauma informed, you know, justice, I would say.
Well, I think from human to human, right? That should just be it right there, right? If it was your child who was harmed in any capacity, if your child was sexually abused or anything like that, I think they should put themselves in it. How would that make you feel? Would that
Hmm.
make you want to seek justice? Would that make you want them to get the maximum penalty that they can possibly get? Would that make you want to put this person, this male or female, whoever it may be, on the child sexual registry for the rest of their lives instead of 10 to 15 years, and then they can get away with it and do it again?
Mm.
So, and I think it's important that, when they pass off these judgments to these individuals who are harming children, that they send a clear message that this will not be accepted. If you harm a child, you will not see the light of day. I think that's the clear message that needs to be shown. And I think especially even in the music industry, because that's where I'm coming from with my abuse, the music industry, they don't talk about it. They kind of like just brush it off to the side. So no one actually takes it serious. I was blessed enough to have Rolling Stone do an article just recently. I'm not sure if you saw it,
I did. It was.
about the
I'll link to
situation.
it.
Yeah, about the situation that happened, and to bring awareness. I think that's what it is. If people are more aware of what's going on, as opposed to saying, oh, you can get over it, they don't realize, like you said, the ramifications, the trauma, the PTSD, the depression that comes along with all of that abuse. Then maybe they would think a little bit deeper. But the problem, and now this is a little bit heavy, but the problem is that some of the judges, as we've been seeing recently in the news, are child sexual abuse abusers. So
Hmm.
it's been pretty insane. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And so what do we need to do? Like moving forward,
Mhm.
what do we need to do?
We need to, like I said, stiffer penalties, make it so that they never want to harm a child again.
Hmm.
Keep them in jail for the rest of their lives, because I feel like once a child abuser, always a child abuser. There's no medicine, there's no quick drug that's going to make them change who they are. You do it because you want to do it. Nobody's forcing you to harm a child. It is done with intent, and it's done with malice.
Mm.
And it's just like if you take someone's life, that's what it feels like. Child sexual abuse, and I'll put it in these, it might be a little heavy, but it feels like murder, right?
Yeah.
You're taking something from me that I will never be able to get back, ever. You took my childhood away from me. You took my innocence away from me. So now that's completely done. Now I have to go now and rebuild my life and try to make a life worth living. I now have to, process all of the trauma. And that part of that child is dead. That child is no more. That child does not exist. And so for me, it's like, yeah, it's like a murder.
Yeah. I mean, and most of these people who have experienced childhood sexual abuse,
Mhm.
I mean, they're extremely suicidal throughout their whole life until
Yeah.
they get the help they need. And at that point,
Mhm.
where are they? And it costs a lot of money to get health care.
It
It
really
costs a
does.
lot of money. And I am kind of sick of like seeing comments of people saying, "Oh, these people just want the money. Cassie just wanted the money." Like,
Right.
you know what? she's in a lot. I can't tell you how much it costs to get trauma-informed care. They don't even, a lot of them don't even take insurance anymore, right? It's all out
Yeah.
of pocket and then you have to
Yeah.
submit it. It's a whole process. Yeah, I think that money is there to help with their continuing care. They're not buying cars with that money, you know?
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
it drives me insane how people are so reluctant to believe survivors.
Hmm.
And so what can we tell other people who are just very judgmental and not really looking at what the ramifications are for this type of abuse?
I would say slow to judge and listen. Stop judging so much. Listen to what the individual has to say, especially when it's a child, because a lot of children just completely not believed at all. They're just like thrown to the wayside, and it's like no one cares. And so then the child has this bad behavior, right? And then the child may
Mhm.
go on to harm another child, or the child may get into drugs or fighting in school, or I mean, there's just so many temperamental things that can happen with a child once this abuse occurs. And then you're like, oh, this child is bad. This child is not bad. Like, I'll give you an example. Even when I was in school, terrible student. They thought I was a slow learner. But by the time I got to college, thankfully I was able to graduate from college. By the time I went to college, it was just no, my therapist explained, she said, you weren't a slow learner. You were being traumatized as a child and nobody was paying attention to you. That's where all the bad behavior came in, the being dishonest, the having bad grades, all of that behavior came from you being violated as a child and there was no one there to defend you. So people need to take that into consideration. Yeah, there
Mhm.
are people out there who may tell a lie. I mean, it happens, right? But I would say 2% of the population, because who really wants to sit there and go through a horrific story over and over and over again and have to relive that? That's insane. So
Mhm.
yeah, slow to judge and quick to listen. Just listen to what that person has to say. And you're right, it takes about $1 million. We've done a lot of research over the years. It takes about $1 million of therapy just to process it. And
Mm.
imagine having to go through it from a child all the way as an adult. I'm at my age now, I'm not going to give my age, but I'm up there,
No.
and I'm still processing what happened to me. I'm still in therapy at the VA every single week, like clockwork, processing how to continue to love myself, how to appreciate myself, how to, wake up in the morning and say, you're a good person. It's not your fault that it happened. That you're no different from anyone else, things like that. So it's tough. It's tough. So just listen and stop judging so much, because it could be somebody that you love. And would you
Mhm.
want someone to treat them like that?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I mean, if you're that person, you're
Yeah.
nobody wants probably will want to even share what
Right.
had happened. That's why being open and like you said, for me as well, growing up, I mean, I was the bad student. I was the
Mhm.
student that couldn't focus. They thought I had ADHD. They put me on
Right.
medications. I was obviously I was coping with drugs and alcohol at a very young age, and I do feel like if I said anything about what had happened to me,
Mhm.
it's because she's a problem child. She is a troubled teenager. Just that I feel like that would have been swept under the rug, and that's probably why I never said anything until I was in my 30s.
Right.
It's really hard to as a survivor to share your story.
Yes.
And I'm thank you for sharing how much it would cost to just process that kind of trauma,
Yeah.
because I mean it is expensive. I
Yes,
mean
it
it
is.
is expensive, and I really feel like that care should just come, once it is reported.
Absolutely. I mean, statistically, it shows that children who are, survivors, they don't speak up until they're in their late 30s, early 40s. So they have to
Hmm.
go through all of those years holding on to all that trauma. And you can't even imagine what it does to a child's mind. They have to
Yeah.
find a way to protect themselves, however they may be. Your brain goes into protection mode, and then just all of this behavior, just drug, like you said, drug addiction, bad behavior, just all of these things. They have to. I mean, these are children. They've only been on the planet for a few years. They know nothing about life. They don't
Mhm.
understand what happened to them. So yeah, it's a mess.
Ugh. Well, you founded
Yeah.
Patrice's Kids to support children in underserved, communities. And let's obviously you were inspired by your own personal story, but what kind of impact have you seen so far, and what do you hope to accomplish in the future moving forward?
Well, I guess my goal with Patrice's Kids is to continue to educate.
Mm,
I offer free trainings on my website where other places you have to pay. So you can just go on my website and there's like about 8 trainings there. And you can complete them, get a certification. And once you get your certification, you go out and teach other people what you've learned, So it's like a each one, teach one kind of situation. It takes a village, and I know it's very cliche, but it's so true. It does take a
so
village,
true.
So I share information with you, you pass it along to other people for information, and they share it with their kids, and if everyone in the community is looking out for one another, then we can recognize the signs, right? We can see what's going on. We can recognize this child's not doesn't just have bad behavior. What's going on at home? Is someone harming them?
Mm,
Let's talk about it. If that's the case, let's get to the root of the issue. Let's get them in therapy. We have to support each other. Also, when I hold my events, for kids in foster care and underserved communities, I want them to know that, they're loved, they're seen, and that's something that I wasn't getting as a child. I felt so unseen. I felt so unheard. I didn't think anyone really cared about me. So because all of this was going on, but I want them to know that, I'm there. I'm there with them every year, twice a year, talking to them, let them know that, I'm here if they need me. I mean, we buy toys because that kind of like, smooths over the situation, give them pizza because, kids deserve to have a childhood, right? They don't
mhm.
need to be dealing with adult situations. And these are truly adult situations that they're having to deal with at such a young age. So my goal is to educate through legislation and just, bringing awareness to, child sexual abuse and all of the, how do you say it? All the signs and the symptoms, right, that come
Mhm.
along with, this abuse. And to, make parents aware, don't just kick your child to the side. Don't just send your child with anyone to babysit them. Um, do a major background check on this person. Make sure you know who this person is. Don't just because you have something to do quickly, oh, they can just stay with the neighbor. You don't know who that neighbor truly is. You don't know what
Mm,
people's true what their true intentions are. You have to be very, very careful with your kids because there's nothing more important on this planet than the love and protection of all of our children. Nothing.
yeah. Well, something that has always stuck with me from our first interview from the first season was when you told me about the person who took you in, who believed you, and that kind of started you on that journey. And now I feel like you're that person, and
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful. It like makes me want to tear up, and like ever since then, every time I talk to people, I've realized that the like thread through everyone's healing journey as a survivor is
Mhm.
there was one person who was there who believed them and who
Yes.
wanted to help them.
Yes. And I'm actually still in contact with him. I have to give him a shout out. Winston Chapman. He was my social
Mm,
worker who helped me get off the streets. And he also was willing to give his statement for my case as well. He's been in my life. He's like a dad to me.
mm,
I appreciate him so much. I love him so much. And, I look forward to, many more years of having him as a father.
yeah. Wow. Mentors are so important, and
Yeah.
that is has definitely been the thread.
Yeah.
Um, and finally, after everything you've endured and accomplished, when you think about the phrase trauma survivor thriver, I mean, I could tell you what I
Mhm.
see when I look at you because it's
Right.
purely a trauma survivor. You're thriving, in my opinion. But what does thriving look like for you today after all of this?
Thriving looks like waking up in the morning with a smile on my face after all of the trauma that I've experienced. Thriving looks like going out in the world, experiencing life, helping others, bringing awareness, continuing to work on loving myself, just doing all that I can to be a better person every single day. That's what it looks like to me.
And I think you are definitely thriving. in my opinion. I
Thank
love,
you.
love, love seeing I'll put your Instagram stuff up, but it's
Okay.
wonderful seeing how you're thriving. I'm like, oh gosh, it's just, it really puts a big smile on my face when I
I'm
see
so
it.
grateful to you because we've been through, I mean, me and you have been in this since the very beginning,
I,
So, I mean, you met me when I first started my book and, when I first came out with my story and before the case even began, you gave me an opportunity to come on the show and tell my story. So I'm truly grateful for you for that. So that's why I definitely wanted you to be the person that I brought the news to when I let
mm.
you know that I, was able to complete my cases. So I'm very grateful to you. Thank you so much, Lorilee.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Patrice. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Um, Pay attention to your children. Again, there's nothing more than the love and protection of your kids. And for survivors, you can get through this. This may sound a little awkward, but working out has really helped me. I
Oh
box
yeah.
a lot. I box, I play tennis and golf. And it has definitely helped me with my mental health. Shout out to Sigma Training in Houston, Texas, because they've been extremely supportive of my journey, as well as helping me out with the children. But yes, get out there, do something active, because if you sit around, other than just going to therapy, you'll just be like ruminating thoughts, just be mulling
Mm-hmm.
over the trauma. And you don't need that. You need to be out there experiencing life and all that it has to offer you. And there's so much to do out there. So much you can travel. I mean, just get out there and do it and find help. That's the first step. Find help and then find things that make you happy. And then get up in the morning and just go out there and do it.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that. Yes, move your body. That is, be
Yes.
in your body, not in your head.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. I love that. Be in your body, not in your head.
Yes. Thank you. That was Patrice Griffin, author of The Unconscious Community and founder of Patrice's Kids. To learn more about Patrice and to purchase her book, you can find the links below in the show notes. You can also watch this episode on YouTube if you're listening. Don't forget, you can check out traumasurvivorthriver.com to listen to past episodes, including my first episode with Patrice in season 1. And you can also access the latest issue of Authentic Insider magazine, where you'll find powerful stories from survivors and thrivers. You've been listening to a Trauma Survivor Thrivers podcast on Mental Health News Radio Network. I'm Lorilee Binstock. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Take care.